This is TJR.
And this is Robert Kinsler.
And last weekend, I posted a video where I talked about what music I had experienced in 2021. It was a weird year for me because of the fact that we stopped halfway through the year, we stopped doing Music Worth Buying, you and I. And I kind of stopped aggressively looking for new music. And I even wondered, what did I hear in 2021? What exactly did I listen to? I realized that I rediscovered a lot of older music by buying it on vinyl for the first time, but I did hear some new things, and I talked about that in that video. And then after I posted it, I realized you had posted on your blog page your top 20 albums of the year. You had not stopped seeking out new music. You were listening to it the whole time because you're writing for different publications. So you're still there discovering, kind of the wind was kind of taken out of my sail when we stopped doing the Music Worth Buying. And so I wanted to, Robert, have you, invite you on here on the channel to talk about your top albums for 2021.
Right. So let me just preface this a little bit. What I did this year is, because it was 2021, I did a post a couple weeks ago on my top favorite reissues, box sets, and live sets. And that was 21 titles. And that of course included titles like the Rolling Stones Tattoo You reissue, and the Beatles Let It Be deluxe reissue, George Harrison's All Things Must Pass. Some titles that might not surprise those people out there that like to watch our episodes. But more recently, it was my first post of 2022. I revisited and listed out my top 21 studio albums of 2021, and I even put in there 10 honorable mentions. So there was a lot of great new music. There was great reissues, but I really was excited by the level of great new albums. And I think a lot of that had to do, TJ, with, because coming out of the pandemic, a lot of artists could not tour. They things were just kind of shut down. So a lot of people went back in the studio, and these are unprecedented challenging times, a lot of loss, a lot of, reflection, I think, from people. And so, there was some really exceptionally great albums this year.
Awesome. Well, let's hear you talk about them.
Okay.
And however you want to do this, whatever direction you want to go, I'm just going to sit here and maybe I'll ask you some questions about it, but please
So
share
what I thought I'd
here.
do is, rather than try, and people can go to my blog and we'll show that link on the screen. But what I thought I'd do is I'll talk briefly about 12 of the releases, because I think they reflect to the diversity of artists, not only style, but also generationally. I mean, we have some young up and comers, and we also have some veteran legacy artists on the list. So I tried to, and there was great music from throughout these different, populations of artists, I think, too. So the first one I wanted to highlight, and I know you were the one that actually turned me on to the album, as I recall, TJ, was Brandi Carlile's In These Silent Days. And as I recall, you were the one that encouraged me to listen to that. I did go online and stream that. A fantastic album from a 6-time Grammy winner. And, her voice is amazing technically, but boy, she can really mine the deepest of emotions in each one of her songs. And if you haven't checked out Brandi Carlile's In These Silent Days, do so. It's really a gem. And like I said, I have more in-depth analysis of all these albums on my blog too.
Yes.
The next one, let's skip around. So the next one I want to highlight is Cheap Trick. And everybody knows Cheap Trick, right? And they came back with In Another World, which was the band's, they had done a Christmas album, I think, back in 2017. Well, this was a new studio album of all originals and just the great hard-hitting, crunchy power pop that we would expect from Cheap Trick. And I'm telling you, they just continue to kind of defy the ages. Robin Zander still sounds amazing with his lead vocals. Did you have a chance to listen to that one this year?
I heard a little bit of it. It's like I said, a lot happening, but I did hear some of it. And now that you've mentioned it again, I need to go back and listen to it some more. And it's wild because I didn't mention Brandi Carlile's album when I did my video, but I didn't buy it either. And these were selections I actually went out and purchased. And I need to go back because it's like, oh, that's right. I remember listening to that, being really impressed, telling you about it.
Right.
And somehow I got distracted with other things and didn't go back to it. And it's like, oh yeah, you should maybe pick that one up, because I
Yeah.
was only talking about the stuff that I'd actually picked up and bought.
Yeah,
Um,
and I'm hopeful, as some of the people out there know, I occasionally, I haven't for a few years, get to cover the Stagecoach Festival, and I know with the pandemic, we don't know if that's going to be staged, but my understanding is she's one of the artists that's going to be performing out at the Stagecoach Festival in 2022. I'm hoping I can somehow attend that and see her live
yeah.
because I'm sure she'll be performing a lot of songs from that album, and it's a great album, you know.
Yes, and I did hear some of the new album. I remember hearing some of it, and what I heard sounded really good, but I need to go back and revisit.
Yeah,
Thanks
great.
for putting it to the forefront.
Right. Now this next album it's hard for me to say this is definitively the best album of the year, but this may be it. And I know the light's not real great here in my home studio, but this is Delametry, a band that I think we did talk about
Mhm.
before we stopped our Music with Bind show, and it's called Fatal Mistakes. And Delametry, this is their first full-length new album since 2002. So previous to this, they did an album, 20 years ago.
Mhm.
And I kind of like Cheap Trick in that they do power pop. Theirs is not as crunchy and maybe as hard as
Mhm.
Cheap Trick, but these songs are so tuneful with a lyrical melancholy to them. Just they didn't lose any of that during this hiatus that they were on, and this is just a really magical album. Delametri is not really well known in the US. I know we talked about that when we did a
Mhm.
previous episode, but really maybe go online, stream a little bit of it and give it a chance. It's a great album. Now jumping ahead, and you can help me celebrate this album,
Mhm.
Greta Van Fleet, The
Mhm.
Battle at Garden's Gate. And I think we
Yes,
both agree one of the great albums that we both heard this year.
absolutely. And it really helped, and I think it's helped push them. And I said this in my video. It's helped push them that much further past the Led Zeppelin comparison. So good on them.
Yeah, and just a thrilling young band. I don't think any of the members is even near 25. They're already great songwriters. They have definite chemistry when they perform together, and it conjures up the magic of some of the great legacy 70s rockers that we like. But I think they do have their own identity, and I think you hear a lot more of that on the Battle at Gardens
Yeah,
Gate.
they found it a lot more on this album. And also, real quick, going back to Brandy Carlisle, that album also recalls a lot of the great singer-songwriter rock albums where it was kind of a cross between both singer-songwriter and rock, from people like Van Morrison and Jackson Brown
Yeah,
and just a lot of great 70s albums like that. It has that feel to it. Fleetwood Mac, it has
right.
that feel to it, like it's one of those great singer-songwriter driven rock albums. And so I just wanted
Right.
to say that too. And
Yeah,
please go ahead and continue.
that's a great, no, that great insight, and I couldn't agree with you more. Now I'm going to talk about a group just briefly that isn't very well known outside of Los Angeles, but they should be. They're called Icy Hawks in LA. They're kind of like an alt country Americana band, and their new album is called On Our Way. And what I really like about this album is that there's a quiet beauty, and being kind of this last couple of years that we've been dealing with the pandemic, I think a lot of us have been kind of reflecting on life, where things are. Many of us, I have beloved family members I haven't seen now in more than 2 years, and it's and this album captures, I think, a lot of the feelings and power that we're kind of, some of us are, we're all kind of living our separate lives, but we're collectively dealing with some of these emotions together. And
Mhm.
this is a really beautiful and an important album that really helped me get through kind of this period, you know.
Wow.
Wow. And it, like I said, and the band is called I See Hawks in LA. Great name, you know.
Yeah. That is the whole band. I See Hawks in LA, correct?
LA, right, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And you're going to hear traditional instruments and everything like that. Just a really good group, and they have quite a legacy. They've been around for a while and done a number of good
Wow.
albums, and this is their latest one. Um, the next one I'm going to talk about, we go from an artist that's been around for a while to somebody very young. He's still 22. I think he turns 23, maybe, in early 2022. His name is Christone Kingfish Ingram, and he is an amazing singer, songwriter and blues guitar master. I mean, he's kind of like Gary Clark Jr., but obviously about 10 years younger. And this guy's new album is called 662, which and I'm trying to remember, I think that may refer to like the area code where he's from in Mississippi.
Mhm.
But this is just, I mean, his guitar playing is flat out, just incredible. But he's a really good singer, and I had a chance to see him live in 2021, one of the few shows I got to see, and just an incredible rising star. And check him out. And then and I think he is touring. So if you feel comfortable, and if going out, maybe try to check him out in concert. He's still playing, kind of like smaller clubs, you know, like medium-sized venues, some smaller concert halls too. But I mean, now's a good time to see him before he blows up and becomes huge. And his
I
name,
have seen him playing on YouTube.
oh, you
And
have, so
you're right. He's a really great guitarist.
yeah.
Absolutely. Real great blues
Yeah,
player.
and has a lot to say too, and just a real, and he has so much presence on record, but also when you see him live, I mean, his spirit, there's a joyfulness about him too, that like we've talked about that before. So many times music can be, rock can be so serious, and kind of there's a joy about his performances that really helps lift up your spirit, and I like that too about his style. Um,
Excellent.
and
Okay.
next one, I'm going to talk about somebody else that's been around for a while, but maybe not as well known. And his name is James Murtry, and hopefully I'm saying that right. And he did an album he returned called "The Horses and the Hounds"
Mhm.
for New West Records, which is a pretty well-known label. And this album is just filled with songs that are expertly crafted, and he mines the deepest reaches of human emotion, as great singer-songwriters do. And I think it's just a really fine album that I really appreciated and liked this year, in 2021. And I hope people aren't going to throw tomatoes at me for this one. William Shatner's Bill, and I know
Oh,
we talked about that. And I'm
yes.
telling you, I'm a fan of William Shatner as an actor and all that stuff, but I just love this album. I mean, it's spoken word. He's not singing,
Mhm.
but there are other artists with it, well-known people performing with him that are singing or playing the guitar or whatever they do and stuff. But he just is very reflective here. And we just lost Betty White not that long ago, and I'm going to butcher his name, and I really apologize. Sidney Poitier, we just lost as well. And so when these great icons in our culture get into their 90s, you begin to think, hey, the majority of their lives are behind them. But what he's done is he knows that he's aware of his mortality, and he really tackles that on this album, Bill. And that's probably why he calls it Bill, and it's just a really great album. I mean, if you don't mind spoken word and stuff, and I know we talked about it on a previous video, I won't say more than that, but
No,
I'm just a
you've been a
fan
big
of this
proponent of
album.
this album for some time now. So I'm assuming this is very good. I should go and listen to it. But I
You
know you've
should,
been a
yeah.
proponent of it for quite some time. And you've been very emphatic in the fact that some of William Shatner's albums, there's a humor to it. Like
Right,
his
right.
Christmas album that you
Yeah,
showed me. There's a lot of humor in that.
there
It's
is.
tongue in
Yeah.
cheek. But this, is, you've been saying, is not a humorous album. It's a
Yeah.
serious artistic statement.
Yeah, and
And I believe you.
There's a recent documentary, I think, on Amazon Prime, where about his experience. I think it's called Shatner in Space,
Mhm.
about his experience about going up in Blue Origin and all that stuff. And for people that appreciated, and he was very reflective in that. You see him with his family, his wife and his daughters, when he tells them that he's going to go into space, and I think they're like, "What?" But I
Mhm.
think that there's that same, this is somebody that is like, he's facing down the barrel of his mortality, and he's still pushing himself. There's something to be said for all of us, myself included, that are getting a little bit older. Don't stop living your life. Embrace it. Embrace every day. And
Yeah.
I think it's a great. And I think the album, it's beyond the notes that you hear. It's a lot of that stuff too, if you really listen to it with an expansive, approach.
Very good.
So
Okay.
then I'm going to talk about somebody not nearly as well known as William Shatner, and that's
Mhm.
Wesley Stace. And this album is late style. And what's kind of unique about this album on my list is it's definitely more kind of in the jazz genre,
Mhm.
and he blends sounds of the past, kind of mixes primarily jazz, but also Baroque pop and also soul music with just a great spirit. and he joined forces with a composer, David Nagler, to kind of come up with the orchestrations and kind of bring this album to life. But it's just a really beautiful album, and it pushed me. Here I was just talking about, pushed me in terms of the kind of music I typically might listen to, which is power pop, rock, or Americana. This is a really nice album, and I've really enjoyed listening to that one.
Very good.
And just a couple more here. One of my longtime favorites is Toad the Wet Sprocket, a band out of Santa Barbara. They
Yes.
returned with their first album since 2013 called
Uh-huh.
Starting Now. And it's just a great album. It features their signature sound. It's nothing that I think is going to blow. If you've had previous experience like with their other albums like Dulcinea, it's not radically different than that, but it's just a great collection of songs.
Yeah, it's almost 10 years.
Yeah,
That last album, yeah.
I can't believe where the time's going.
I know. Where's
So
it going?
two more albums. We talked earlier about Greta
Okay.
Van Fleet. Another young band that I'm really crazy about is called The War on Drugs, and their latest album is I Don't Live Here Anymore. It came out on Atlantic Records, and I just love the way they remind me a lot of Neil Young and Crazy Horse meets Band of Horses, kind of like these esoteric, kind of these soaring guitars, with just a really wistful, kind of melancholy spirit, and just a great album. That kind of like if you're in a rude mood to just dream, kind of like, just put on this music, it'll take you away.
Wow. Okay.
And
Very
one
nice.
more album to get to, and a great album, and that is Neil Young and Crazy Horse's Return Barn. And a great note for me in 2021 was that Neil Young and Crazy Horse returned, and this is just a great album. There's acoustic flavored material like Song of the Seasons. There's kind of that country rock thing that Neil Young has always done, going back to Harvest. And then there's also a very beautiful romantic song called Through the Years. Just there's a lot of diversity here without ever veering too far from the great sound that we associate with Neil Young and Crazy Horse. And I know I'm speaking a mile a minute here, and I wanted to, but those are 12 on, and you can read the other ones on my list via my blog.
Yes, you have much more extensive insight into these albums on your blog page, which we're leaving. If you click right under the video under more info, we'll put it on the screen, but if you click under more info, you'll see a link there you can go to and check out Robert's blog, and not only check out all of his picks for albums for 2021 and his honorable mentions. But that's quite a year when you've got like, how many honorable mentions? 10, 12?
Well, yeah, 10. So that's 31 albums. And, and I thought about it after I did it. I go kind of like you said with an album too. I forgot to put the Killers on there, and their album was very good. Their latest album. There was a lot of really good albums, and there was even some great reissues that I also couldn't fit on there. So, and it's like, I did a lot of listening, and my one regret is I don't have time to give each of these great albums even more time, because I'm always trying to stay up on what I'm getting and what I'm hearing. And sometimes I kick myself. I go, sometimes I wish I wasn't a music reviewer. So when I fall in love with an album, I might spend a couple months with it. And unfortunately, that's kind of a curse about when you're reviewing concerts and live albums, that you literally sometimes are doing a drive-by review on something. It's just, there's only so many hours in a day, right?
Yeah, but you've never lost your passion, and the amount of, it always shows the amount of care you feel about all this music. And we've been doing the Music Worth Buying show for a long time, and that really put the fire under me to aggressively always seek out new music. And when we stopped doing it, and I talked about why in the video, and because we just kept getting flagged when we would play clips. But it kind of I just kind of stopped aggressively looking. But after reading your blog and then saying, Robert, we got to get you on and talk about this, I thought, gosh darn, I really got to start paying attention again. I think I just let myself get a little down. And I got to pay attention and start checking out what comes out every Friday, start listening. I have not listened to, I listened to maybe just a few minutes of Neil Young's. I know that came out right at the end of the year.
At the end of the year.
Barn. listened to maybe just a couple tracks, but didn't really dive into it that deep, to know if I even liked it or not.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking to
And I'll
myself,
tell
yeah,
you, and TJ, and I think we talked about this when we were talking about getting together. I think I either had, and I'm blanking out here, either 2 or 3 of Neil Young's reissues in my reissues list. Neil Young, I mean, it's the guy just blows me away. He's releasing these great archival, live concerts or even studio recordings that he's done. He's really putting it out there for the fans, and that's real. I mean, being a longtime fan of his, that's great. But then he continues, like with Barn, he continues to do these great new albums that, he's just, very inspiring. Kind of like, I know I was saying that about William Shatner, but Neil Young, whole different level, because he's been so focused and such a prolific recording artist, and just such a great body of work,
yeah,
over all the, 50 plus years, going back to Buffalo Springfield and stuff. Amazing.
yeah. I guess if there's one thing I've been doing is discovering new old albums that I have never heard, except maybe one song because it was a hit, but never experienced the album. And I've been kind of doing that a bit. So I might be doing more videos where I talk about some of that stuff in the near future. But
Right.
But this is great to hear, though. I'm really glad to hear this kind of just reading your blog page, and then hearing you talk about this is kind of reigniting that spirit in me to start aggressively looking for new music again and checking out what comes out each week and seeing what catches my ear, makes me feel, hey, that sounds real. That's exciting. So thank you for doing this. And once again, we invite everybody to go check out not only your top albums of the year, the honorable mentions, but also your list of reissues that came out, and then just all the other album reviews you're doing as well. Right. All the other new releases you're looking at, because there's no way we can cover it all on this channel, at least not yet. But so please go check that out, everybody. And there's a link under show more info. Please go check that out.
Well, and thanks, TJ. And thanks for having me on the, and it's great to talk. Always love
anytime
talking with you, and great to try to celebrate some of these albums that maybe don't get the attention that they deserve.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for watching. As always, click like. If you like videos like this and you want to see more, click like so that the YouTube algorithm recognizes us and recommends us to more people. And also click subscribe and hit the bell notification icon so you never miss a video. Want to thank the patron supporters who are helping me to make more videos. If you'd like to be a patron supporter, go to patreon.com/TJR the original. And Robert, we'll be talking again real soon. I know we will.
And everybody,
thank you for watching. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.